In part 1, we went over the abiotic parameters of our alien planet Xutone, how they would affect the evolution of life, the inception of life, some early forms that life has taken as the first multicellular organisms came to be. We also looked at how early life would begin to set the stage for life that was yet to come. Currently, we are 35-20 billion years into the timeline. Welcome back to Project Xutone, everybody. If this is the first episode you have discovered, go click on the link to episode 1 in the description, then go back. In this episode, we will look at the early ecosystems of Xutone, the petrophyte reefs, the benthic plains, and the pelagic seas. The petrophyte reefs, which dot waters alongside Patagonia's equatorial coasts, no deeper than 200 meters, represent the most hospitable environment on Xutone in the Primocene, with the highest amount of biodiversity. They are a perfect playground for life to evolve and experiment. One example of such a clade would be polyplume. This derivative statioplume first appeared 35-30 billion years of the timeline, having evolved to duplicate its head segment to increase its surface area for photosynthesis. Due to this change in lifestyle, polyplumates are wholly autotrophic, as their branching limbs give them all the surface area they need for energy production. Around that same time period, the archaeostome speciated in order to explore benthic ecosystems, create a clade known as reptostoma. Once they reached maturity, the reptostome would concentrate their denser tissues toward the flattened oral side of their body, guaranteeing that they would land on their oral side. Reptostomes would then crawl around feeding upon marine stone microbial mass. A ring of chemoreceptive cells allows them to sense where food is and move in the direction of food. Their gonads also invert into fleshy tentacles to extrude of their mouth once it's time to reproduce. In order to extend and retract their gonads, it will allow their gametes to spray out the reptostome to shift away, even if ever so slightly. Reptostomes reproduce sexually if their population density exceeds a certain threshold, and reproduce asexually via binary fission otherwise. As anasemic as thorny reefs look to bullosomes, the truth is all the primitive organisms of Xutone in that time period were poorly adapted for tangling thorns. The lack of active predators has provided the evolutionary pressure that's encouraged the evolution of sense, harbor, stealth, and the other evolutionary pressures of make navigate the petrophyte reef thickets tolerable. However, bullosomes evolved reefs, created a new clade, lentomsoma. Lentomsomes grow a thicker skin, so they sink as they approach maturity before rolling both the seabed and even on plants. They also excrete a sticky solvent and let them cling to solid surfaces and rolls up organic matter to digest and absorb. Covered in rings of chemoreceptors, lentomsomes can detect organic matter next to them. They can reproduce either sexually by spraying their gametes in all directions or asexually through binary fission. Lentomsomes end up helping the health of a petrophyte reefs by feeding on debris that would otherwise limit the petrophyte's access to sunlight. As with a petrophyte, they too speciated into a variety of clone forms. One such subclade would be the sphere petrophytes, also known as pastapetra. Pastapetrates are named for steep cylindrical apexes, which prevent marine snow from accumulating on them. Another structural change would be long, spindly spines at the bottom half of the apex, prevent lentomsomes from crawling on top of and feed on their photosynthetic surfaces. Pastapetrates evolved 20 billion years after the ancestral petrophytes. Now, onto the benthic plains. The benthic plains are ecosystems where the ocean floor is too deep underwater for sufficient sunlight. Due to this, reptostomes as well as lentomsomes have been able to colonize this ecosystem. However, reptostome species, due to having a higher depth tolerance, have been able to explore deeper regions of Xutone's ocean. Appearing 35-40 billion years in the timeline will be a descent of the archaeostomes that evolved for landing oral side up, sursum stoma. Thermstones have evolved to sink a sporal side down once they approach maturity. With a set of tentacles around the mouth covered in adhesive mucus to capture and feed on marine snow. Having an upwards facing mouth also means that the thermstone can release its gametes in the water column with little risk. Thermstones are sessile, use a cement-like mixture to adhere themselves to the sea floor even in the face of powerful ocean currents. Thermstones have 8 tentacles around their mouths. As with a reptostome, a clade of reptostome evolved from a benthic clade, Cambrian. By flattening their body, Cambrian reduce the pressure on their gonads, allow for increased procreational efficiency. Due to this, they became more capable of reproducing in large numbers, allowing for them to quickly achieve larger population size. However, every evolutionary breakthrough comes with a trade-off. Due to having less room in their stomachs, Cambrian can store as much food as ancestral reptostomes before having to eject their waste. While this isn't as much as a deal breaker as it could be, it may affect which of these closely related clades would succeed in the end. The environment of a benthic plains were perfect for the evolution of a wholly heterotrophic descent of a septum plume, Septum stella. Septum stellas digest their symbiotic algae upon reaching maturity, where they begin to sink toward the seafloor, where sunlight is too scant to support photosynthesis. Septum stellas do not need to crawl along the seafloor to scrape up green stone bacteria for consumption. They either move with one arm leading or two arms leading. Their flexible tube feet pick up organic matter passed it to the mouth as they move. The gonads of a septum cell have moved to the aboral side, releasing the water column to reproduce. Septum cells first appeared 30 million years in the timeline, giving them a head start when it came to claiming benthic environments of Xutone. However, these seemingly inexhaustible resources breed snow and microbial mass represent means that it is unlikely that the species will be outcompeted for the time being. Now, onto the pelagic seas of Xutone. In the open waters of Xutone represented environments sustained completely by planktonic activity. However, the large open space of open ocean allows for large body size to be reached. Even if these early organisms will be tiny compared with counterparts from later eras. One example creature that evolved for life in open ocean would be foraminates. Foraminates are named for having evolved a permanent mouth from their bolosome ancestors 40 million years after the first evolution of multicellular with an aperture-like opening. By quickly opening their mouth, they can feed up faster to pull their prey in where they are digested by enzymes. Another advantage of foraminates is that by flapping their mouth open and close rapidly, they can swim out like that of Earth's jellyfish. Foraminates have also partially cephalized by clustering their chemoreceptors and mechanoreceptors around their mouth, as well as around their aboral pole. As for the archaeostomes, 50 million years after the establishment of multicellularity, they developed a fin form as a tend to create a mockery of a fish. This form is known as pseudopiscids. Pseudopiscids have evolved for a lifestyle of active swimming, feeding their fins to propel themselves and turn through the water. Their mouths collect nutrients in their blood guts. Pseudopiscids have also evolved an adaptation for increased energy use, blood, in the form of hemorrhaphin. Hemorrhaphin gives the blood of pseudopiscids increased oxygen storage capacity, as well as a pinkish-purple hue. While hemorrhaphin has only 1/4 of the oxygen-binding ability of hemoglobin, it compensates for that with increased carbon dioxide resistance. Pseudopiscids, owed to their primitive natures, have an open circulatory system where their bodies are more or less bags filled with sloshing blood. Pseudopiscids have evolved a gill skirt behind their fins, where oxygen-rich water is forced against their gill by their 3 fins, allowing for effective respiration. As for the Ramosa plume, about 20 million years after its inception, it's a wholly photosynthetic derivative, Lataplume. Lataplumes have evolved gas sacs that are keep them buoyant and horizontal to their body. This has not only allowed for more effective photosynthesis, but also keep their gametes from getting entangled in their arms. Lataplume larvae are capable of heterotrophy, which is vital for them to get the energy they need to reach new water to spread out their arms and grow. Adult lataplumes release hormones in the water but the larvae are instinctively repulsed by it, encouraging their exodus and improve their survival rates. With the evolution of new species, they began to invade into the petrophyte reefs. Let's see how the invasion of nuclei changes the direction of petrophyte reefs and Xutone as a whole. As nuclei evolve, they expand out to new waters. Here are some of the forms that clays that evolved from the benthic clays of pelagic seas to adapt to the new environment of a reef. Sursum starts out as planktonic larvae, craft stormers through their larvae safely to the reef, where they had time to evolve and adapt. In order to grow the small perches of the petrophyte branches safely, they reduced their body size. Thus, the microsursum was born. Microsursums are epiphytic, grow on petrophytes and pass to petrons, feed upon marine snowfall cells. They evolved a mere 10 million years after the appearance of the first larger ancestors. Septum cells ended up entering the reefs. At first, their larvae came in and were able to mature there, and there they were able to speciate in order to feed on low-lying vegetation, and the new clay was created septum dontia. First branched off 20 million years after septum cell ancestors, the septumdonts have specialized for feeding upon vegetation. Septumdonts are named for their 7 keratinous teeth evolved from 2 feet, designed to rasp layers of vegetation off. Have the complex multi-chambered gut allowed for the septumdont to easily digest a nutrient-poor plant matter and store food within itself until it finishes digestion. While the labyrinthine spines of the ancestral petrophytes and backwards-facing spines of the hastapetron provide them with some protection, the same could be said for the glebophytes and the stipulophytes. Thus, the base glebophytes evolved into new clade Tachyphyta. Tachyphytes are named after their fast growth rate, which is done by growing to smaller adult sizes. The Stratified tachyphyte is to live short lives where they reproduce quickly in order to replenish their life rates in spite of being fed upon by septumdonts that led them so. Tachyphytes first appeared 50 million years after the inception of the ancestral glebophyte. As for the stipulophyte, it too evolved in response to predation, becoming the free-flow plant known as Librophyta 40 billion years after the evolution of the first stipulophytes. Librophytes have a large leaf on their apex that is filled with gas, keeping it buoyant, while the many strands protruding from the stem absorb nutrients from water. Librophytes eventually escaped in pelagic waters, drift about to form their own ecosystem. Librophyte diaspores sink to the ocean floor as they slowly grow and develop their gas sacs. Due to this, librophytes can only successfully reproduce over shallow waters, but that doesn't stop them from forming floating forests. Pseudopiscids were able to quickly speciate for life in the reefs. The blind gut of a pseudopiscid gave them several flaws, the first of which was having to regurgitate undigested food to get rid of waste. The second was that the cloud of waste blocked their chemoreceptors, and the third was being pushed back by this motion. And thus a through-gut bearing clade of pseudopiscids was born, Quelopiscis. Quelopiscids, due to the increased efficiency of their through-gut, were able to grow to larger size. Due to a mutation, they gained a second bodily segment consisting of a double trio fin, a gill skirt, and the anus. Quelopiscids first appeared 10 million years after pseudopiscids. With the event of the last few million years, the evolution of active predation on Xutone stopped to become the possibility. It was become the inevitability. Let's look at the creatures that pioneered predation. On Earth, the earliest multicellular creatures which arose during the Ediacaran, 635 to 542 million years ago were defenseless, simple creatures that fed off of microbial matter that covered the seafloor, as well as microbes and nutrients drifted upon the water column. That all ended during the Cambrian. In the Cambrian, the activity of Earth's early burrows destroyed the microbial matter to support the Ediacaran Biota. Additionally, the advent of active predation in groups like the Anomalocaris forced prey organisms to adapt or perish. The event that kicked evolution into full steam is known as the Cambrian Explosion. The evolution of the herbivorous septimodont introduced plants to the serious possibility of being preyed upon. However, it was only a matter of time until a septimodont decided to take a bite out of one of its fellow animals, and it will only be a matter of time after that that the clade of septimodont would evolve to be more effective at hunting. The clade known as Ediacaran stella evolved from septimodonts 10 million years after the first appearance of septimodonts. These opportunists use their elongated arms to grab a hold of branch of petrophyte in order to raise the living tissue off it or to capture prey items and devour them bite by bite with their powerful teeth. The appearance of Ediacaran stealth forced benthic organisms to adapt or perish. One example claims that evolved to be the reptostomes, which evolved to have a conical shell that made it hard for Ediacaran cells to access their fleshy bits. This new clade of reptostome became known as Conica testa. Conica testans first appeared 30 million years after the appearance of the first reptostomes. They evolved a six-lobed body that allowed them to more easily to keep their shell for protection. Each of the Conica testans lobes ends with a patch of photoreceptors, allowing for them to spot incoming danger. As for the lentosomes, they evolved to have keener senses. This new clade, known as the oculosoma, has photoreceptors on spots all over their body, giving crude panoramic vision. This allows them to keep away from Ediacaran stealth, especially since they are so much faster than they are. Oculosomes first appeared 30 million years after the appearance of the first lentosomes, not too long after the evolution of the Ediacaran stealth. While oculosomes aren't exactly fast, they definitely are capable of outmaneuvering the predators. Thermosomes also evolved protection in the form of a hard shell, birthing a new clade, Hoplostoma. Hoplosomes have a hard cement-like shell upon reaching maturity and can retract its tentacles into the shell when predators come. Hoplostomes have also evolved eye spots on the outside of its tentacles and will retract its tentacles upon seeing motion. Hoplostomes first appeared 20 million years after the appearance of the first thermosome, and not too long after the appearance of the first Ediacaran stealth. As hoplostomes die, they leave behind their hard cast and create reefs of their own. Hoplostomes will use the empty cast of dead hoplostomes if they can't find their own. Basal septum stealth and septimodont were also on the menu for Ediacaran stealth. Thus, one branch of septimodont took a very drastic change to become the deformistella. The deformistella has moved towards a bilateral ball plan, having extend one of its arms while having reduced the other six. Additionally, the deformistella has moved its mouth towards the side opposite of its longest arm. This allows the deformistella to use its longest arm as a tail to propel itself through water over short distances as well as inch about. The secondary arms of the deformistella are useful for grabbing onto surfaces and have sensitive receptors. Deformistella, due to bilateral symmetry, are able to outmaneuver a Ediacaran stealth. They have also began to burrow holes in microbial mat, but the damage is minimized with deformistella's usage of a flying gun towards it to the surface in excreting waste after it's had filled. Deformistella first appeared 15 million years after their ancestral septimodonts. The pelagic waters too saw the introduction of active predators. One example of pelagic creatures that evolved to become more predatory would be the foraminates, which evolved with Genia Napha, named so for adapt form its mouth parts into long trawling whiskers covered in sticky mucus. When prey beats small plankton or larger nekton becomes stuck with Genia Naph's tentacles, they are pulled into non-digested. Genia Naphs passively trawl for their prey, acting more or less like Earth's jellyfish, but they lack true nematocysts due to how derived nematocysts are. Genia Naphs first appeared 4 to 5 million years after the first form of Naphs. As Coelopiscus grew to large size, they evolved to take up new niches. One evolved to become a herbivore that feeds on vegetation, be it free-floating latiforms or be it petrophyte reefs. Odontopiscus. Odontopiscus have evolved a longer, slimmer body in order to weave through dense vegetation. Odontopiscus get their name because their teeth, which they have evolved to rasp vegetation. They also take nibbles off of microbial matter as well as dead decomposing animals due to their opportunistic nature. Odontopiscus first appeared a mere 5 million years after appearing to the first Coelopiscus. Of course, other clades were making their first strides towards entering pelagic niches. One such would be the Curvus testa, a derivative of the Conica test that appeared just 5 million years after the initial Conica test in clade. Curvus testeds can use their body flaps to swim about for a short period of time, which can be just enough to avoid predators. Helping the Curvus tested would be a shell which has curved in on itself and became less dense. This shell helps the Curvus test maintain spouts and veins of water columns. In order to improve its stamina, the Curvus tested has also evolved chlorocruin, giving its blood a greenish tint. Another such clade that ended up entering the pelagic niche would be said the deformistelle known as Elatostella, which appeared a mere 5 million years after the first deformistelle. Elatostelles are named from the membrane that connects the 3 arms on either side of their bodies, as well as the tail membrane that they bear. These membranes allow for the Elatostelle to glide through the water column, remaining out of reach for predators. In order to meet the energy cost of its lifestyle change, the Elatostelle has hemocyanin blood, which has better oxygen capture abilities than even hemoglobin in cold, pressurized environments. This gives the Elatostelle the edge in deep-sea polar ocean environments where it and its descendants are sure to take over a lot of the niches there. As for the Odontopiscids, it was only a matter of time until the opportunistic nature led to them become the end of an era. Vermipiscus. Vermipiscids appeared just 5 million years after the inception of the Odontopiscid became the first truly fossorial clade on Xutone. The appearance of the Odontopiscid, the appearance of a Vermipiscid was the beginning of the end of this age of life on Xutone, due to its ability to continually burrow through microbial matter. In a few million years, the disappearance of microbial matter, except for some extreme environments not readily accessible, will lead to a mass extinction that will end the Primocene. Next time, in part 3, we will explore Xutone's first mass extinction since the inception of multicellular life, known as the end Primocene extinction, the surviving clades, and how life adapted to a new status quo where active predation was a thing in a new age known as the Nodocene. That concludes the second part of the evolution and development of life on Xutone. This takes us roughly 35-70 million years into the timeline, but we will pick up 3573 to 3575 million years in the timeline during the end Primocene extinction. Thank you so much for watching this video. Please remember to like, subscribe, and share for more similar content. Every view counts, and if it gets popular enough, I will